Okay, testing 1 2 1 2. Mic seems to be working here. Huh. A Skype trading room.
European shares extend drop. Stock 600 down 0.5%.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pro Trader and Plus and the Core CPI report.
Secured overnight financing rate unchanged at
My name is Lee
4.6%
Goldstein, the
November
trading
12th
director for 10
from
Minute
November 8th.
Trades. Please remember all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. I'm not a financial advisor. It is possible to lose money trading futures. Okay, give me a heads up, everyone. Let me know that you can hear me, that you can see the charts. We've got our webcam going. Welcome, everybody who's watching us on YouTube. If you'd be kind enough to hit that like button, we'd really appreciate it. Don't forget a couple of things this morning. Number one, if you're trading cash, brokers have raised margins on this uh, report. So the margins are up for cash accounts. A couple other things. Everybody who is trading, you should get your computer in sync with current time, right? So how do you sync your computer with current time? We just simply go to the website time.is. That's all you have to do. Go to the website time.is. Let me show you. Go to the website time.is and it will check your computer to see if you're in sync. Should you not be in sync, as many of you know who are regulars, if you're not in sync, then we have software in our file folder in the trade room. You could download D4 Time, or you could download PT Time Sync, which is Karen's Time Sync. Both of them will help put your computer in sync. It's important to make sure that your time is good. So let's talk a little bit about this CPI report. Number one, if the brokers raise the margins, that's a heads up that this is a volatile, potentially risky report to trade. So that means no crying in a corner, whining, and being upset if you decide to trade it and you lose more money than you thought you could lose. That's what could occasionally happen on a very volatile report like CPI. It has not been trading that way. I mean, it hasn't happened. It's rare that that happens, but you just have to be aware that reports can go haywire. CPI, I'm a little bit worried about this CPI report. Let me tell you what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the behavior. I think we have a good setup for behavior. I think that first of all, if you look at the bond market, mortgage rates are way up since the election. People are not going to be happy when they go, even with the Fed cut, mortgage rates have been going up. So the housing market is a monstrous problem that has not been addressed. No one's really trying to solve it. Uh, People can't afford to move. They can't afford to rent. They can't afford to buy houses. The average person, it's very difficult. Very difficult housing market. And mortgage rates, at least the last time I checked, it's a couple of days ago, they were up, not down, even though the Fed had cut. So it's just something to realize. Life is not always as it seems on the surface. Inflation, very worried about inflation, that inflation is going to rear its ugly head again. Prices are not down, inflation is down. It's sort of, a two-pronged sword. The prices that normal people pay for things are high. You go to the market, everybody knows the average person struggles to make ends meet. Life is not easy for people. Okay, so I'm just a little bit concerned that the report, the CPI report, might not be as good as everyone's expecting. That's my worry. Am I going to trade it any differently because I personally that's my own personal feeling? No, I don't trade reports based on my feelings, hardly ever. Every now and then, I've had a gut feeling that I went with. Most of the time, when you trade on a gut feeling, it doesn't work. So I don't, I've learned over the years, trade the way we test. That's the best best advice I can give you. If we do our testing and you do your testing, trade what works. That's what you got to do. CPI historically now, over the years, has been one of the most inconsistent reports we've ever had. So it's important to understand that about this event. It's by its nature, it used to be a quarterly report. It really is a quarterly report. You know what? Forget that I just said that. That's GDP. CPI is not a quarterly report, so that's not what I mean. CPI is an inconsistent report every month. It's a monthly report, so it's not a quarterly report. There has been multiple setups because it's inconsistent. We've had gold breakouts. We have a bond setup. And a lot of people right now who are trading in prop accounts, there's a bond issue. You can't, some of the prop companies, they're not letting us trade bonds. We have a ZF setup that, if you want to trade the ZF setup, I like the ZF setup. It did get stopped out last month, but trading ZF on CPI has been a pretty solid way to trade it. Looking at my notes, it worked in September, it worked in August, it worked in July, it worked in June. It's had some good trades. It got stopped in May. It worked in March. So ZF is not a bad way to trade this report with low risk. You could trade one contract if you want to. And the setup is reasonable. It's a reasonable setup using the DMM exactly as it is. Bracket of 12, targets of 7 and 19 with a stop of 15. And you can go 15 to 20 on your stop if you wanted to. ZF is, what is it? $7 and change per tick. ZN is $15 and change per tick. ZB is 31 and a quarter per tick. Okay. Bonds are not bad. In fact, I think they have been a good setup for CPI. Maybe the most reliable setup out of everything we have been looking at for a year at least. Gold breakout, which we don't have as a setup, has had 3 months of possible profits. I say possible because sometimes when you test gold and look at the results, you can't always tell what the liquidity is when you're testing. Sometimes the only way you know if a report works is by trading live real money cash. Okay? Because liquidity sometimes can't be seen easily when you test, when you back test. It's just one of the realities of testing. So, just the heads up is this is an extremely inconsistent report, although bonds have been good. All right. The ZF is not a bad way to trade it, especially for cash traders. Prop traders can't use bonds right now. Anybody who has news about what's going on with bonds and the prop firms, please type it in because I have heard nothing about when it's going to be fixed. Okay, what I'm trading is we did some testing and I am trading. And for folks that absolutely feel like they have to trade this report, we have a micro gold trap trade that is, I like it. It doesn't mean it's going to work today, but I like it. I like it. What movie was that? I like it. I'm not even sure that's the right phrase. It's RoboCop. I just downloaded the RoboCop trilogy. Anyway, RoboCop number one is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a great movie. It's a great science fiction. Anyway, we're not here to talk about RoboCop. Trap trade, gold, micro gold. Now, if you want to take, if you have a gigantic, well, two things. If you have a gigantic cash account and you want to trade the gold trap trade, the full size gold trap trade, the risk to reward is actually good. It's the potential to make more than $1,000 according to our testing, more than 1,000 with a risk of about 1,000 full size gold, because I was able to test it and the stop was not as big as we thought it would need to be. Um, so for prop traders, if you're not afraid to blow up an account, which you could do, trading full size gold as a trap could make a significant amount of money. It could also blow up your account for the day. That's absolutely possible. The micro gold trap trade is very interesting. So what's the setup? It's our DMM setup of the day, and you can see it. So how do you set up a trap trade? Right click the chart, click on strategies, double click trap trade, and then it's very simple. Look at the DMM. Current software users are going to type in position size 1. How many positions do you want to trade? How many contracts? Position size 2. Okay. How many contracts you want to trade? What time do you want to activate the trade? It's an 8:30 trade, so we're going to 8:29:55, and our stop is 65 ticks. Tier 1 is 80 ticks. Tier 2 is 110. What's the danger? What's the danger here? The danger is gold could blow through our tiers and just go right to the stop. That's if there's a giant move on gold, it could blow through the tiers. Okay. I am labeling this MGC, and I'm going to trade it in our prop in my, give me a second. First, I'm going to
German
apply it.
conservative leader Merz says our response to
I
Trump's
have a
protectionism
template.
cannot be
I've labeled
protectionism
it
of our own.
MGC trap, and then I'm going to choose an account for it. Okay. Apply it. Okay it. Put my charts on that account and make sure everything matches. Enable the trade. Okay, so I'm ready for this trade. Couple of things. When you enable a trap trade, make sure you can see all your buttons. Break even, close, adjust, cancel, combine. You need to be able to see all those buttons. The break even button moves your stop to break even. The close button closes the trade. The adjust button we don't use right now. Cancel the outer tier. And this is a real possibility that we may only get filled on one tier. Testing showed most of the time it's a one tier fill. But that also means it shouldn't blow through our stops. It means it's not going far enough to get to our second order. But there's potential for a lot of movement on this report. And there's an average amount of movement also that we've looked at. And this particular report it's had some significant moves. It's had a 100 tick move on gold in September. Okay. So that's why you have big tiers. September's not all that long ago. And just to show you what kind of move we could possibly see, give me 1 second. Now, this was a test I did with gold. My first test with gold blew right through the tiers. Okay. But look at that reversal. So if you could find a setup that allows for safety and works with other months, that's that's the goal. Regular gold, I'll say it again, is a monstrous amount of risk. I was going to do it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to be mature and smart and not risk blowing up an account, even though it could be a monster winner. This is regular gold with the setup that I'm going to just tell everybody. It's similar to what we're using on our MGC. It worked very nicely on regular gold also. Okay, Calvin, I'm sorry about that. Um, we create something we call a spike sheet. And our spike sheet has movement that micro gold and gold made over the course of the last 3 months on this report. So you could see it's 134 ticks, 130 for micro gold, 120 versus 105 micro gold, 118 versus 90. So you could see these are big moves. Regular gold, I'm doing the same setup with a 30 tick stop. Same setup, 80 and 110 on the tiers with a 30 tick stop. But remember what I said, full size gold can absolutely blow up an account, certainly for a day if it's a prop. Okay. So
According to CNN,
if
Musk is
you
set
want to
to join
be
Trump
more
at the House
careful,
Republican conference
more
meeting.
prudent, micro gold still could make you a nice little profit on the report if it works well. So you don't have to be greedy because it could be a very nice move. What I will do secondarily is set up, I'm not trading cash currently. We're in our prop account most of the time these days. But because we like this ZF setup, I'd like to see how it behaves by watching it. So I'll set the ZF setup up. And the first thing I like to do on ZF is put my indicator net change display on ticks just to see how volatile it's been overnight. It gives me an idea sometimes. And our setup on ZF is a breakout, and it would be 829.58 on the trigger. The bracket is 12. The targets, I never use the exact targets on the DMM because I know a lot of you are. And I don't like to even tell my targets these days because targets are not in stone. Targets are a range. Okay? Targets are a range. So if the DMM says 7 and 19, it usually means something like 6 and 25 might be reasonable. But I'll tell you what the range is, and I think 6 and 25 is a reasonable range on this report. 15 stop, bracket is 12, and then I do use the target stop move, target one stop move. If my first target gets hit, I move my stop to break even -3 or 4. That's so if there's a reversal and you
At
want to
8:30
try to
a.m.
protect some
Eastern Time, we
profit,
get US
you
CPI
can.
data year-on-year forecast 2.6% on
And
the
then I
prior
label the trade
2.4%,
bonds.
with a range of
I always
2.6 to
apply it, and then I
2.4%.
check my
Month on month,
brackets for
forecast
bracket management by
0.2% on the
setting
prior
the time to 0.
0.2%, with a range of 0.3 to 0.1%. Core
I'm just
year-on-year,
testing
forecast
bonds. I'm not trading them
3.2% on the
live,
prior
Rob.
3.3%,
Bonds are not
with a
allowed
range of
still, as far as I
3.4
know.
to
But we do
3.2%.
have cash
And core
traders
month
that
on
trade
month,
bonds.
forecast
And bonds is our
0.3% on the prior
best setup.
0.3%, with a range of 0.4 to 0.2%. We also expect comments from
So
Fed
that's the
cash
reality.
director
Bonds
appears on
trade
Bloomberg
well on this
TV.
report.
Taking a look at some
Order
analyst commentary
submitted.
ahead of
So when
this,
you set
ANZ say
a
we expect core consumer
trade
price
to a
index
0
inflation to have
time, the
risen to
software to 0, it'll show
0.33%
you
month
your
on
Order
month,
brackets
canceled.
so you can
suggesting
set
underlying
them
pricing
so
pressures
that they're wide
remain a
enough
little
just so you could
elevated.
manage the
Weaker
trade.
gas prices will result in headline inflation rising by 0.18%. In year-on-year terms, we expect
So
core CPI inflation to remain
829.58
at
on the trigger, bracket
3.3%
of 12,
and headline to
stop
rise
of
to
15,
2.6%
targets
from
between 6 and
2.4%.
25.
Core inflation
That's
surprised
my
to the
bond
upside in
trade, and you could
September,
do a
rising by
break even -3
0.31%
or
versus
4
an expected 0.2%.
if it
This was
hits
driven
the
by
first
volatility in
target.
some items like airfares.
So like I said, I want to see
Statistical
the
analysis
behavior
of
of
CPI
bonds.
price data shows a broad-based disinflation trend is
Our
firmly in
gold
place.
trap,
Our one-month diffusion index has been negative for 5 straight
our
months.
gold trap, like I said, is, let's go over that one more time. MGC is what we're looking at. It's a way to reduce risk. Also with margins being raised. So we've got position size 1 means how many contracts do you want to trade at position 1? Okay, that's what that means. How many contracts do you want to trade at position 1? Position 2, same thing. Tier 1, tier 2. Okay, that's what that means. We're triggering 829.55 with a stop of 65. If you have the older, not older, but previous version of the software, it has time of event would be exactly 8:30, prep seconds are 5. And going forward very soon, we're not going to be putting prep seconds anymore on the DMMs. Everybody should download the new software. Tier 1 is 80, tier 2 is 110. Okay, so that's our trap. There are many, many instruments that can move on a CPI report. Okay, Frank, it's okay if you're on the previous version. There's nothing wrong with the previous version. Just make sure your prep seconds are 5 and your time of event is 8:30 Eastern, right? 8:30 local time. In other words, if you're Frank, I think you're Eastern time. So your time of event's going to be 8:30. It's not Eastern time, it's local time. Whatever your computer is set to for the next, the next half hour. If you're somewhere in overseas and it's 1:30 coming up where you are, then your time of the event is 1:30, right? Unless it's the afternoon, then it's going to be 13:30. So Frank, you're okay. Time of event 8:30, prep seconds 5. No worries. And let's take a look at last month's CPI. Last month's CPI was a whipsaw on bonds It was nice on micro gold, it looked like to me. It was a nice breakout, but it did reverse also. So keep that in mind. We weren't really looking at a trap trade. This is the first time we've ever looked at a trap on this report.
At 8:30 a.m. Eastern
You could
Time,
see that
the accurate
ZF was
CPI
just a
data
very
year-on-year
unsafe
forecast
trade.
2.6% on the prior 2.4%, with a range of
And you could
2.6
see that
to
gold shot down and
2.4%.
pulled right back up.
Month-to-month forecast for
Micro gold
0.2% on the prior
shot down,
0.2%,
pulled
with a
right
range of
back up.
0.3 to 0.1%.
So that's why we're
For
looking at a
year-on-year
trap.
forecast 3.3% on the prior 3.3%, with a range of 3.4 to
Now,
3.2%.
I know a
And
lot of
for
people are
month-on-month
uncomfortable with trap
forecast
trades.
0.3% on the prior
Make sure you could
0.3%,
see all
with
your
a range of
buttons.
0.4 to 0.2%. We also expect comments from
Now
Fed's
make
cash
sure you're
balance
on
reports on
micro
Bloomberg
gold. My
TV.
chart's on gold. Okay. That would have been a nice
Taking a
accident.
look at some
I'm
more
I'm
outlook
really
commentary
tempted
ahead of this.
to
Wells
trade
Fargo
gold
say the
full
October
size
CPI report will likely support the notion that the last mile of
because it could be a
inflation's journey back to
spectacular
target
profit.
will be the hardest.
But I'm
We look for
doing
the
the
consumer price
prudent
index to have advanced
prudent
0.2% in October,
trading.
causing the year-over-year rate to edge
Make
back
sure
up
you're
to
on micro gold.
2.5 from
All right.
2.4 last month.
MGC
Excluding food
1224.
and energy, a third consecutive 0.3%
Watching bonds,
monthly
you can
increase is
also
expected to keep the core
set up
index up
an after the
3.3%
news
year-over-year,
trade
still about 1 percentage point higher
very
than its
quickly now.
pre-pandemic pace. A
Maybe we don't
number of
get
upside
filled.
risks remain
Very
in the mid to
possible.
medium term,
Setting up
however,
a
including a
reversal
pullback in labor supply,
with micro
deglobalization's
gold. It'll be
impact
on
on
the same
import
chart.
prices,
Two
the potential for
positions,
worsening conflict in the Middle East, and still
40
strong
tick
demand.
target,
Many of the policies
40 tick
proposed by
stop.
President-elect Donald
All
Trump
right.
on the campaign trail are likely to contribute
Label
to
it
these pressures and extend the journey back to the Fed's target, if not lead to
reversal.
a
It doesn't have to be a
re-acceleration in
reversal. It
price
might be a
growth over the next year or
continuation.
so, in our view.
Normally, I would trade it in the same account that I'm trading the trap trade on. So you don't have to be moving around different accounts and just doing things that don't even relate to the trade. You don't want to get distracted by non trading, if you know what I mean, like deciding what account you're on. You don't want to be screwing around with administrative duties during a trade. Okay. I know that at 8:30 the Fed Gov is talking at 8:30, but I think our trade will be over, Lewis. I think our trade will be over by then. I saw that. I can't imagine that he's not going to probably not say anything until the report is known. And you know how fast these trades are. I think this trade should take not take very long. And look, it could go through the stops. It's possible. You could use a bigger tier if you wanted to on tier 2. So bonds should be able to manage itself pretty much. I'll manage the trap if I have that opportunity and I'll talk through it. I do want to thank everyone who's watching us on YouTube. Please hit that like button. I know you like watching this, it's fun. A lot of people love to watch people trade. It's a great way to learn, also.
1 minute remaining. I'll lead with US CPI year-on-year.
So the important numbers are the year over year, the month, the monthly. Okay. Those are the important numbers. Look at the little bit of volatility on bonds there. You gotta really this. You don't have to trade this report if you don't want to. Okay, just remember that.
10 seconds.
5 seconds before
Order
the news.
submitted.
Shrink your chart if you can't see your
Order
orders.
submitted. Order submitted.
Now
Order
bonds,
order canceled.
everything kind of
3.6% as
filled
expected.
early.
Order filled.
Okay, it hit the first
CPI
tier
month-on-month,
already.
0.2%, 0.2% as expected. Core CPI year-on-year, 3.3%, 3.3%
Now I'm not
as
moving my
expected.
targets
And
because
core
there's a
CPI
potential
month-on-month, 0.3%,
for a big
0.3%
move,
as expected.
but I'd rather see it
Seeing
start to
downside and
pull
dollar
back
upside in stocks.
now. It's taken its time. It's definitely taken its time. The news looks to me as expected, exactly as expected. I'm going to move my targets up to the VWAP and the PP. I don't think we're going to test the low. It's only hit the first tier so far, but we're not getting a very good reversal. It's not the best behavior, okay? But we should get our change in direction.
Treasuries rise after the CPI data.
Now, I never canceled my outer tier because we have not gotten a true reversal yet. And we still haven't. We're just barely under our entry. So now as it starts to reverse, I will think about canceling my
Order
outer
canceled.
tier.
So US short-term interest
I
rate
could put
futures
my
rise
stop to
after inflation
safety.
data as traders
Now what
increase
I'd
their
like to do
firm
is
stances
expand my
of a Fed rate
target.
cut, and US Treasury 10-year yields turn lower. Last down 4.3 basis points at 4.36%.
I'm pretty aggressive right now on my stop because it's not a great reversal. If I get stopped here, I'm going to make a profit. I'm trying not to get any closer to the price. I think there's a lot of pressure to the upside, so I think you might want to get yourself to safety. You can trail a little bit if it'll keep heading down, I'll keep trailing. I'll try to give some space between my trail and the price, getting a little too close there. Putting my target low of day. Low of day. No matter what, I cannot lose on this trade. Trailing the tiniest bit because we're just not getting great speed on the reversal, but it is reversing. So I'm going to the top of the candle.
So super core year-over-year
Nobody should
inflation
lose
at
money on this trap
3.77%.
trade. Now bonds, I have to, we'll have to look at the video for bonds. It looked like they filled very early. Everybody's going to report in with what happened to them. I'm still trailing. I don't think we're going to get to the low of the day. I think, any little bit you get here, it's probably going to stop us out soon if you're tight trailing. Okay. Now, I can just let it sit, see if we could get a little bit more push to the downside. Maybe it'll test the VWAP. Way slower reversal than we had on
US Treasury 2 to 10-year
Whoa,
yield
I
curve
did not want to
steepens
get
after
that
inflation
close,
data.
folks.
Last at 9.1 basis
All right.
points.
So I did trade an extra contract on my trap trade. I traded 2 on the first
Order
tier
canceled.
because I had a feeling it wouldn't fill both tiers, and it didn't. Okay? It did not fill both tiers. It only filled one. Now, I definitely got too tight on my trail. Let's see how far it goes. And people are starting to report in now. bond reports are winning. BC had a nice ZF trade. Like I said, ZF has been a reliable trade on bonds. And look, it burst up. We'll watch it on the video because the true test is cash on a report like this. This is a report that you have to be trading it to see the truth, okay? To see the real truth. Now, if you were willing to trade full size gold, then you had a sweet, sweet profit, okay? A sweet profit. Now, it's interesting, Doc, that you had a really good YM trade because the YM doesn't test well on this report at all. I did not like the YM testing. So in a way, because this looks like a breakout for everything day, when I say a breakout for everything, first of all, cancel your breakout trades. Okay? Breakout trades should be canceled. Very good reports from everybody. Profit after profit after profit. So that's great to see. When I say that this might have been a breakout for everything, so if you look at bonds, you have a nice breakout candle. I'll bet if you look at YM 1224, you don't have much of a wick. Even if it went down first, you're going to have at least a 35-40 tick bracket on this report. So it looks like a nice burst to the upside.
So according to a
And
Punchbowl
Q,
news reporter on X, Lisa
this is a
McLean of Eastern
breakout
is the
for
favorite
all
in the House
kind of
Republican
day.
conference chair race.
And what that means is it's the kind of reaction that broke out on most instruments. And it's amazing also that a breakout for all can also be a winning trap trade. It just shows the power of testing. It shows the power of testing. It went up and gold reversed, but it was not the monstrous reversal that I wanted to see. I wanted a 3-second gold trade, not a 3-minute gold trade. Okay. That's why I knew it was going to be, it was harder to manage it. It had to be managed to squeeze out some of the profit. But it was also less risky for full size gold today because it was less of a whippy kind of move. So, it's all dependent on what you're willing to risk, right? That's what it all comes down to. What's the worst that could happen if you trade it in your prop account and it has a terrible reaction? You could blow up a prop account so it will not be allowed to be traded for the rest of the day because you hit your daily limit, right? Some prop firms have limits about how much you can lose in one day. Now, we did not have that happen today. We had a great trade today. I haven't seen anybody who lost money. I cannot imagine why you would have lost money on this report today, unless maybe you did something wrong or had bad luck, right? So reports are coming in. The big hitters, Doc, who's been with us for year after year after year, he has his own testing also. Doc's been doing this long enough that he knows how to create a setup if he doesn't want to trade hours. Okay. Brian's been doing this long enough also. He knows how to set up his own setups. Sander, I always notice that Sander often uses what we think is our best setup in cash. And I admire that Sander continually seems to be having some very nice cash trades using our best DMMs. And that's very important. What's the rule? Trade the best of the best, right? Trade the best of the best. Sandra, you traded Home Depot with us, right? You did. You sent me your screenshot. Traded the best of the best, one of the best earnings reports So I know Sanders making money this week. That's the way to do this. Trade the best of the best. Now, Calvin, I'm curious what you did. Ravi, I'm always curious what you do. Um, so everybody hasn't checked in.
So
Tell
after
us what you
CPI,
did.
the S&P 500 now up at
Tell us what you did,
0.16% in
and let me
pre-market
know what
trading.
happened. So Chantal actually trusted me today when I talked to Chantal this morning, and Chantal deserves tremendous credit for helping us find this gold trap trade, the micro gold. I told her that I tested full size gold and it looked pretty good. I thought that it looked pretty good. Ah, okay, Calvin. I would have used, I think when I talked to Chantal, I would have used a little bigger than 35 on the MNQ, Calvin, but I don't know that it would have worked for me either. Being honest, on the MNQ, I don't think I would have used bigger than 50 on the MNQ. What do you think you needed, Calvin, today on MNQ?
Fed's Kashkari says CPI headline confirms the path we are on.
50 would have been close. Okay. You know, you think about the jobs report, and we use 80 on the jobs report. CPI has the same potential. I think the jobs report moves more than CPI. I mean, I think that if we look at the numbers, jobs moves gold sometimes 200 and 300 ticks, which is definitely more than CPI. So 80 has been one of our biggest brackets, but
And Kashkari says,
it
I have
might
the
be the right
confidence
size
inflation is headed
bracket
in the
when the
right
brokers
direction,
raise margins. It might not be
and says there are still 6
a
weeks before
bad
the Fed's
thought, or
next meeting with
60.
more data to
You know,
come.
I was thinking 40 or 50 if I was going to do the MNQ, but it's impossible to test the MNQ, as you know, Calvin, because of the way it trades. You can't see the liquidity, so it's very hard to test and come up with a reliable setup for everybody. In other words, I understand what you're doing and you're having success with it, but it's hard to recommend it for everybody because it requires special abilities. Anyway, bonds. Let's look at the video. What's interesting about gold is we really got our maximum, very close to the maximum pullback. And it was a breakout for all. Watch the euro. Look at this. Bet you it was a breakout. It was. You could see candle, most probably one direction. One instrument that I've been looking at is the Japanese yen. Breakout for all. Also a burst in one direction. Now, the markets like this data, right? The NQ is up, the ES is up. So the markets are liking the data. Interestingly, bonds are up, markets are up. Usually it goes the opposite way with bonds. That's a shame, Frank. What kind of issues? All right. So first off,
And Kashkari
everybody,
says,
let's
I'm not
stay in
ready
the
to say
room.
inflation is stuck
I want to
above
thank
2%.
everyone on YouTube. We're going to close our YouTube. How could you not join with us, folks, when you see us make these great trades? I know that some of our YouTube
And
streams,
Kashkari says,
every
higher
now and then we
productivity
show
points to a higher neutral rate.
losers, but we also show plenty of winners. So there's a link in the YouTube on the YouTube page to join us. So, on your way out on YouTube, please hit the like button and hit the notification bell. You'll know the next time we're going to stream. And for members, I'm going to play our video. We'll take a look at the behavior. So thanks on YouTube. Really appreciate you joining us this morning. And we will be streaming again on Friday. Take care, everybody on YouTube.
And Kashkari says the labour market